Hi friends, I'm Mukesh and welcome back to Curious Minds. For all the international students out there, today I have some good news for you. On July 6, 2020, US Immigration and Customs Enforcement announced a rule which stated that if an international student is enrolled only in online courses for the fall 2020 semester, they cannot stay in the US. Well, this rule has been revoked. This July 6th news had scared approximately 1.2 million international students who are currently enrolled in the United States and many others who were supposed to start their program in the fall 2020 semester. Both the universities and the students were caught by surprise when this new rule was announced on July 6th, as the earlier guidelines permitted the students to take online courses given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Most universities had been planning for the last few months about how to go ahead with this fall 2020 semester and would have taken the best measures under current circumstances permitted by the COVID-19 pandemic, which unfortunately is still going strong in the United States. First, the university sued, then the local and the state government joined, then the tech companies sided with the students, and finally 15 Republican senators urged the Trump administration on 14th of July to restore the previous policies which allowed international students to stay in the US while taking online classes. Facing a widespread opposition led by the Harvard and the MIT, the federal government abruptly drops its plans to deport or deny entry to international students to colleges and universities offering virtual instructions for this fall 2020 semester. This announcement came at a brief hearing at Boston's federal courthouse over a lawsuit filed by Harvard and MIT to block this order. Here's what the news states. On July 14, 2020, in the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts, in a hearing involving litigation filed by Harvard and the MIT, challenging Department of Homeland Security's July 6, 2020 International Students Guidance, DHS has agreed to fully rescind the July 6, 2020 ICE Guidance and July 7, 2020 Frequently Asked Questions, and rescind all implementing guidance. The status quo based upon the agency's March 13, 2020 guidance will remain in force. Federal Judge Alison Burroughs confirmed that both parties have agreed to the decision by the US ICE to rescind its July 6 proposal and continue with the March guidelines allowing international students to stay in the US and study remotely. This news actually came out on July 14, but I had waited a couple days to see if the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement's website would be updated with this latest news. But strangely enough, they had not updated this news on their website's news section. But after digging it a bit, I found out that ICE had updated its guidelines on July 15th in the FAQ sections of the COVID-19 guidelines. We will leave a link to these guidelines in the description box below. And before we continue with this video, if you feel like you've got some value out of it, please like this video and consider subscribing to our channel. Also, share it with your friends and family who you think might benefit from this information. Let's look at some of the questions that are important to many international students. I have been admitted for the fall 2020 semester. Would I be allowed to come to the US? If new students have not arrived in the United States, ICE guidelines are that they should remain in their home country. Students should check with their schools as to what their plan of action should be and consider deferment at least until next semester. Will my school cancel my admission? Student and exchange visitor program is not encouraging any specific action regarding new students. If a school has accepted F or M students but will not maintain standard operations because of COVID-19, deferment is an alternative. Again, students should check with their schools for their school's guidelines. If a student does not feel comfortable to return to in-person classes after their school resumes in-person classes, will their records be terminated for authorized early withdrawal? Yes, schools will have to terminate the records of students who cannot return or choose not to return to United States to study after a school returns to normal operations. I'm in a country where internet or technology access is limited or unavailable. Will my school deactivate my SEVP records? The students will have to notify their schools about the lack of internet or technology access. Your school may keep your student record active in SEVP as long as you intend to resume your course of study when in-person classes resume. If I had returned to my home country during the spring term and cannot return to the US due to pandemic-related travel restrictions, but I am still maintaining the full course of study, does the 5-month rule of temporary absence still apply? As long as you're taking online classes offered by your university, the 5-month temporary absence provision will not apply to students who remain in active status even if they had returned to their home country during the spring term and cannot return to the US due to the pandemic-related travel restrictions. My school is offering online courses, but not the ones that I wish to take. What should I do in this case? You have two options if your school is not offering a full course of study because of COVID-related limitations. First, students are allowed to take whatever courses are being offered, and second, request for a temporary leave. Can students engaged in OPT and STEM OPT extension work remotely when appropriate and permitted by the employer? Students currently participating in OPT, including STEM OPT, may work remotely if the employer has an office outside of the United States, or the employer can access student engagement using electronic means. Students participating in STEM OPT do not need to submit an updated Form I-983 to report remote work. Can students with proper authorization participate in CPT while they are abroad? Students may engage in CPT during their time abroad, provided they are enrolled in a program of study in which CPT is integral to the program of study. Their school authorizes CPT in advance of the CPT start date, and either their employer has an office outside the United States or the employer can access student engagement and attainment of learning objectives electronically. Does time spent studying outside of the United States during the COVID-19 emergency count towards the 1-year requirement for CPT and OPT? As long as the student is in active status in SEVP and meets their school's requirements submitted to the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, this time will be counted towards the 1-year requirement for CPT and OPT. Is there any chance that students would be able to apply for post-completion OPT from outside the United States? Department of Homeland Security is evaluating these issues and may issue additional guidance, but it recommends contacting USCIS regarding OPT employment authorization requests, since USCIS adjudicates OPT-related requests and not DHS. If I am on OPT and am now working fewer than 20 hours a week due to the economic impacts of COVID-19, can I continue to work? For the duration of the COVID-19 emergency, Student and Exchange Visitor Program considers students who are working in their OPT opportunities fewer than 20 hours a week as being engaged in OPT. Will F and M students be able to return to the United States if they are continuing their studies outside of the country as a result of COVID-19? Students who continue to make normal progress in their course of study remain eligible for admission into the United States. However, they are recommended to follow their local embassies and CDC website for travel restrictions. I'm currently in the United States and my passport is expiring or expired. What do I do? Students are advised to contact their country's embassy or consulate to identify options for passport extension or renewal. If students decide to depart the United States, they will not be eligible to apply for admission until they renew their passport. If I had taken a spring break and returned to my home country, will I be allowed to travel back to the US to resume my program? As long as your country isn't listed for any travel restrictions into the US, you will be allowed to enter the US. You will also have to check with your school for what their operational procedure is for out-of-country students. Will I be authorized for a medical reduced course load due to impacts of COVID-19? Students who cannot maintain a full course load due to contracting an illness such as COVID-19 or another condition will be allowed to take a medical reduced course load, but please check with your school about this information. Can my school send me a new signed I-20 form through email instead of physically mailing the I-20 form to me? Yes, due to COVID-19, schools are authorized to electronically send I-20s to student email addresses listed in the SEVP. Does Student and Exchange Visitor Program have any guidance for students who have been asked to move out of their university housing? If students are required to leave campus, they can continue to study online if possible, either inside or outside of the United States. If there are no online classes and the closure is temporary, students can find a place to live and return to classes when the school reopens. As a reminder, per current regulations, students must notify schools within 10 days of an address change. Schools must update student addresses in SEVP within 21 days of the date a school is notified of an address change. As we had mentioned in our previous videos about this topic, that the universities will fight this rule established on July 6th, as they have as much to lose as the international students themselves, and will come up with a way to work around this rule. Not only have they fought to restore this rule, but also have warned of future court battles if the Trump administration plans to make any changes in the future regarding this rule. We urge international students to stay in touch with their universities if they should hear any new rules announced. For now, international students can rest easy and focus on what matters, their education. That's it for today's video, and see you in the next one. Until then, have a wonderful day and stay curious.